Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on iTunes. On this Thoughtful Thursday, I want to talk about how we better ourselves. Lorenzo, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I saw you post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago your diploma. You went back to school and finished your degree. I know you were a couple units shy of finishing, and then job offers and life got in the way, and that kind of was lingering there for a while, and you went back and finished it. What was the impetus for doing that, and why now as opposed to back then?
I figured 20-year senior was long enough.
You're right.
And I wanted to go. But yes, first and foremost, go Broncos, Western Michigan University. It was exciting. I think for everybody, 2020, there's a lot of how do we spend our time? How do we focus our energies on things that we want to get done? And being at home and working from home for a while, it just was one of those things where I was like, let me just see. I wonder what it would take for me to finish my last semester of college. And for those that I maybe haven't listened to the whole podcast all these years or listened to the Life of Lozo podcast, I left Michigan my last semester of school to go, move out to California, and I did music out there and worked in music retail at Guitar Center and things like that. And I just never, it was one of those things I had written off as I at this point I don't really need it. But then in 2020, I was like, you know what? I wonder, and I started to make some phone calls, and they said, yeah, we can do it, and we can give you the vast majority of all of your credits from school that you had when you were here, and we have a whole program. So it just felt good. It felt good to get done and to walk the stage, and it was nice. It was something that I never thought I would actually finish. And so it was kind of just one of those personal goal things to get it done.
I remember when I was in college in my early 20s, there was this thing where the class is about to be over and then the professor says, does anybody have any questions? It's always the person who's in their 40s who went back to school who raises their hand, and you're going, oh, come on, we could have left early. Were you that person, or was it all online? Yeah. That really wasn't a thing.
Fortunately, it was all online where I didn't have to do that. But I was that person that was in the in the online comment threads that was like, hey, can everybody get their work turned in on time? Because a part of this assignment is I have to respond to your comments, and it's a pain in my butt. And also I was that guy who's like, man, this is so much easier when you take it serious. Yes. These classes, the assignments, the homework, I'm like, wow, it's really not that difficult. But when you're 20 something and living the DJ life and stuff, it just was another thing. So, but yeah, I took my couple shots to make sure people knew that I was here for all A's and wanted to get this classwork done.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But it brings up the point of this episode, which is what are we doing to better ourselves? And I don't want anybody to hear this and think, oh, if you're people have busy lives. I get it. We all have busy lives. We all have a lot going on. And I'm not saying that you need to, fit in a college life on top of whatever it is you have going on in your life right now. But it is very, very important that there is part of your life, even if it's a very small part of your life carved out for self-betterment. And I'm not saying self-care. This isn't you get your bubble bath once a week. It's self-betterment that is not related to your job in a one-to-one, area. A lot of companies will give you training, and that training is going to be related to doing your job better. If you work for a very good company and you have a very good boss, then they will hopefully have some opportunities and some funds set aside to help you in development for skills that can be used outside of your job too, that you can take with you to another organization. But that's not the vast majority of places. And that means that any type of development or skill building or betterment that you're going to be doing is going to be self-driven. You're going to have to figure out how to get that into your own life. But I will tell you that I can see a huge difference in my own life when I am doing something that betters myself versus when I am not. There's this almost angst that comes when I feel like all of my time is in spirit of others. And it's fine for maybe a very short period of time. There's going to be times where that's not possible. But on a long enough period of time, it will eat away at you. There needs to be part of your life carved out to bettering yourself in a very structured way. Not in I have an extra hour, let me go read an article on the internet about something. I mean something that you commit to. A process or whether it is going to school or taking up Rosetta Stone and learning a language, picking up a musical instrument and taking a class once a week, even if it's only 30 minutes. There's something that needs to be in your life that you do for you. And I can't stress the importance of this. So what I want to ask you, Lorenzo, is, before you were doing this, before you were going back to school, what were some of the things that you've done in your life in spirit of that? And have you seen times when you're not doing it, and what does it do to you? So I want to ask you that, but first I want to give it up to word for one of our sponsors. All right, Lorenzo, have you ever woken up one day and found yourself going, I'm not doing anything for me, and this is a problem, and I need to fix this? And how have you fixed it in the past?
Typically, those are the times from like a health and fitness standpoint when I look in the mirror and I'm like, I need to hold myself accountable, right? When it comes to like the time for me, I think for me it plays out in two spaces. One, the creative space, and so I have to have something that I'm doing creatively to occupy that part of my brain and my drive and the creative elements. And when I know that I have those things that are planned and scheduled, and there's a project thing that I'm working on, that allows me to stay more focused in the non-creative space in the work that I'm doing, because I know that I'll have time for that output. And like I found myself where if I don't have some type of a creative project going on, my mind will wander while I'm doing other work. It's hard for me to stay focused on tactical things and strategy type things because I'm thinking about creative things. And so like I've learned that a lot about myself, but then also as a leader, I've always had wonderful mentors in my life that have challenged me to be better, but they've role modeled it for me. They'll always mention things like, here's a book that I'm reading, or have you read this article, or did you subscribe to this thing, or did you listen to this, and because I've had mentors and leaders in my life that have always role modeled that, making themselves better from a leadership standpoint, that's just been built into me over a lot of decades of time. So like, I get really kind of anxious if I'm not taking in some type of leadership content or theory, if I'm not doing some stuff on LinkedIn Learning, if I'm not watching YouTube videos or podcasts, if I'm not reading articles. And like, look, I'll keep it 100% here. Like this podcast that we've had for multiple years now has helped me to fill that space without having to think about it. Like I'm not, in my brain, it's like I'm doing research for the podcast, but it's also like so much of what I take in, similar to you, is like we take in so much that very little actually makes it to the podcast.
Right.
So
Right.
much of it is
for sure.
for our own betterment. And I find myself applying things with my team and with leaders that I work with that have longer lasting impacts in regards to how I lead and how I develop myself.
Yeah, it's funny. When we first started, I remember saying to you, maybe 2 months in or 3 months in, there's going to be a time when we run out of content. And I truly believed that. And we have, and we have not. There's always more. There's always more. But I like that idea of compartmentalization. What sounds like you're saying is that it's easy for you to compartmentalize if the compartments are there. But when they're not there, and you don't have this space or this time, these resources carved out for these things, then they force their way in. And if you know that they're there waiting for you, they don't force their way in. They bide their time and they allow you to get done what you have to get done. And that's so important. You can't fit these things in. You have to schedule them and make them a priority. And you're absolutely right. It does make the other things better too. It's not just about bettering yourself for the sake of bettering yourself. The things that you have to do for your job and your family and your other commitments that are not related to you, you will be better at those, and they will be less likely to burn you out if you have that stuff set up. For you, it's playing in the creative space. For me, it's always been about what I can do to educate myself more. The last thing I did for myself was I got my SHRM certification, but it's been a year or two. And, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up in this episode is that, I'm kind of in a little bit of a valley right now where I need to figure out what the next thing is for me to better myself. And I think one of the reasons that I like bringing it up on the show is that by putting it out there publicly, I start holding myself accountable to actually getting it done. And so I look forward to kind of sharing what the next thing is that I figure out, very shortly here on what I can be doing to better myself as well. But again, very important to do this. If you don't have it in your life, you need to have it in your life. I see a huge difference in myself and how I interact with others and the other things that fall into place when that is a part of my life, even if it's a small part.
Absolutely. And with that, Chris will have 30 days to figure out the next thing. And this is the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And have a great day.